I'm Amira Valiati from the Solana Foundation, and Taking Stock starts today.
Welcome one, welcome all, welcome to Taking Stock. We are live here on the ground at Money 2020 in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, truly the center of fintech and financial market innovation. Welcome to the show. A little bit of a different change of pace for us. Of course, we're usually under the bell of the iconic New York Stock Exchange. We will be bringing you the closing bell in just a minute here. But today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, a few days this week, bringing you the latest you need to know about the currency as well as the future of financial markets and really what the future of currency and money mean ultimately here at this terrific event known as Money 2020. We are also bringing you, of course, another record-setting day across the major market indexes. Several of those indexes expected to close once again at all-time highs. The S&P 500 expected to close for the tail of the tape above 6,800 for the first time ever. This just a trading session after the Dow Jones Industrial Average also topped 47,000 for the first time. A lot of the sectors of the S&P 500 up and to the right in no uncertain terms on this trading Monday. Technology shares catching a bid, discretionary as well as telecom. As for those Dow 30, those household names we follow most closely, we are seeing the strongest performing sectors really be the mega caps here on the week ahead of their anticipated earnings, including NVIDIA, Microsoft, and Apple. Northern Asset Trust Management is at the floor of the NYSE. They are set now to do the honors at the New York Stock Exchange. And there you have it, the team from Northern Trust Asset Management at the New York Stock Exchange set to do the honors on yet another history-making day for the broader stock market. The S&P 500 finishing up more than 1%. The Dow up about 0.6%. The NYSE Composite Index up fractionally. And a comparable story for the Russell 2000. The small caps, you love to see the small caps getting in on the action as well. All this on the back of renewed hopes that maybe trade tensions maybe somewhat a thing in the past. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying earlier today, quote, "I think we have a very successful framework for the leaders to discuss Thursday." Those leaders being Xi Jinping, President Donald Trump. They are expected to meet at APEC in South Korea for the first time since 2019. Music to the ears of investors across the major market indexes. But since we are here on the ground at Money 2020, let's chat now with Jessica Blue. She is EVP of Money 2020 USA, and she joins us here on the ground. Troy, I'm going to steal that microphone from you if you don't mind, so Jessica and I can chat. Thank you for joining us right off the top of the broadcast. It's great to have you here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you with us, and we are thrilled to be here ourselves. This has been a year in the making, bringing this show to life, and thrilled to see all of our customers, our partners, our sponsors, all here having a wonderful time here on the show floor.
Yeah, and speaking of show, what a privilege it is to do our show here live from the show floor. First and foremost, what does this mean to you and the team? You work so hard, so many months go into this, and you actually get here. For one, I am stunned at the scale of this place here in Las Vegas. What does this mean for you?
This means everything to us. I mean, like I said, this is all we do. This is what we do day in, day out, every week of every month of every year to bring this to life. It's a full team, a big team, very talented team, but it takes a village, and I'm so pleased that you're impressed with the scale and the experience, because we really focus on the experience. It's so important for our customers and our sponsors to have the best experience here with us. So that's what matters. We serve the entire ecosystem. Here you'll get to see the huge technology companies, some of which you mentioned earlier. You'll also see the startups, the fintechs, coming up with new ideas, new ways to solve problems using technology, as well as the retailers here, en masse, regulators, the payment companies, the big banks, over 350 banks here. So the whole ecosystem represented, and we're thrilled to welcome them and to host and be the platform for them to do business.
Yeah, and a huge part of that experience was what you call Sunday Night Live last night. These very closely watched Grand Prix Awards. Talk to me about some of the favorite programming for you personally you've already seen here on the ground at Money 2020, and what most stands out to you from yesterday, day one, last night.
Well, yesterday was Sunday, so it was a huge day. Huge day. It started at 9 a.m. We ran summit, in-depth summit all day long yesterday, from fraud and identity summit to blockchain. We had also a wealth management summit, data and AI. So all day long, in-depth, topic-driven, topical, technology-focused session. So they were very well attended, standing room only, which we were thrilled about. And then that full day of summit then led into Sunday Night Live, which you just mentioned. And so we were thrilled to host Jennifer Bailey from Apple, coming back to our show floor, to show again to share an update on Apple and the developments over the last 7 years with Apple Pay. Again, standing room only in that room.
Absolutely.
And also Max Levchin, who's the CEO and co-founder of the firm, also sharing his journey, his story, and the company's story. So, look, great content. And also we hosted the awards. So It was a jam-packed session last night.
So
it really was.
Tell me about some of the award winners, 27 winners across 5 categories. We got to talk with some of them last night. Who most stands out to you?
Well, for me, the highlight was the final Grand Prix Diamond Award. It was Project Nemo, which is a grassroots fintech campaign. And what was really touching and really important is it's bringing, technology solutions to help, disabled people access financial services. They've been 12 months in the making. And they won the very special last award. So based in London, one to watch, definitely doing amazing things for the ecosystem and for the world.
Yeah, we got to talk with Project Emo last night, all about disability
wonderful.
inclusion in the fintech space. We'll be bringing that interview and much more to our viewers throughout the week.
Yes.
What a way to kick off our coverage here in Money 2020. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been great to have you, and we'll talk with you again soon. Best of luck this week. I'm going to hand you that microphone. Matt, you and I are going to head for a walk. First, let's talk about Ripple, since they're right over my shoulders, of course, a major cryptocurrency, as well as the underlying payment network that the Ripple cryptocurrency trades on, up more than 7% today, up almost 30% or so from the start of the year. Anticipation growing more and more by the day about a potential XRP ETF, of course, pending regulatory approval. And that is not exactly a certain pathway for all this to play out, as the ongoing government shutdown now stretches into 27 days. Shout out to the team from Ripple and all of our cryptocurrency fans who want to know the latest on the impending XRP ETF. Matthew, let's now head this way. We're going to talk about another bank that we've also got here today. Pardon me, one and all. And that's the team from U.S. Bank, the 5th largest with regards to assets under management across the United States. Earlier this morning here at Money 2020, I sat down one-on-one with Gunjan Kedia. She's the CEO of U.S. Bank, all about her journey for more than 30 years as a major financial institutional player, and really what it means right now for the underlying technologies and emerging tech that continues to change by the day. We will be bringing you that interview later on this week here on Taking Stock. The company had a really nice beat on earnings last week. The average one-year price target for U.S. Bank sits at $55 a share, suggests upside potential in the eyes of market analysts of an additional 16%. All right, as we were just talking about with Jessica, last night were the highly anticipated and closely watched Money 2020 Awards, also known as Sunday Night Live. Take a look at a handful of the winners that we got to catch up with here on the ground in Las Vegas last night.
Good evening, an official welcome to the 4th edition of Sunday Night Live. I am Scarlett Sieber, Money 2020's Chief Strategy and Growth Officer by day, and your host of SNL tonight. But tonight isn't your average Sunday Night Live experience. For those of you that are new here for the first time, welcome. So back to SNL, we have legends like Jennifer Bailey, who'll be joining me here on stage in mere minutes to give us the latest and greatest updates from Apple Pay. Please join me in welcoming Jennifer Bailey, the VP of Apple Pay and Apple Wallet. I think let's just get a start to talk about Apple Wallet's vision. And Apple Wallet started to help simplify payments. Obviously, you had such a key role in that. And today it's evolved just so much beyond that. How do you define the ultimate vision for what Wallet is? And when you talk about, because Apple Pay talks a lot about removing the physical wallet, what does that actually mean?
Yeah. I mean, it is sort of a simple vision that we do want to replace the physical wallet. We really started that over 10 years ago, really focusing on security, privacy, ease of use. And we're continuing on that vision. I mean, Apple Pay has been doing fantastic. We have hundreds of millions of users now on the platform. And we are really excited to be expanding into other areas of the wallet. So if you think about all the different things you have in your wallet, you obviously have loyalty cards, you might have tickets, you might have keys. These are not in your wallet, but in your pocket or purse, right? So we're working on hotel keys, car keys, um, being able to use your student ID to get into university dorms and to pay for your food in the cafeteria. And so, really, everything that is in your wallet, we've been working to replace. We've been making great, great progress.
And you've made a few references to the tech side. When you think about the innovation that Apple has made, have there been any innovations in particular that you think has had the biggest impact on some of this growth and scale?
Yeah, we have continued to invest for the 10 years we've been doing this. And of course, we started with some very important innovation around tokenization with the networks, as well as the secure element on the hardware device, Face ID, Touch ID, our biometrics, all critical to making Apple Pay very secure. But we've also continued to innovate in things like new and additional ways to pay. So last year we introduced the enablement of installments through the Apple Pay button. So if you're on e-commerce and you hit that button, your issuer can offer you an installment plan. And we're working with new companies like Affirm and Klarna to offer buy now, pay later and installment loans.
You've got some great scale, some great traction. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Some good comments there. We really appreciate you taking the time. In 5 years, we'll have you back to see the progress again.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank you,
Scarlett. Great to
everyone.
see you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
No time to rest.
It has been an amazing night already, and we are in for another incredible conversation. Tonight is all about celebrating. In just moments, Max Levchin is going to join us on stage. Please join me in giving a huge round of applause and a welcome back to the original pioneer of our industry, Max Levchin, who's joined by Karen Webster of Payments.com, who will be moderating this session.
That is why it has so much momentum. I mean, we've seen a lot of roadkill in fintech, and we've seen a lot of things that continue to get funded, really don't get traction. But this has momentum. It has a growth. It has responsible use. We'll talk about that in a minute. But do you believe that's why it's so enduring and will continue to be so enduring?
That's certainly the necessary condition. One of the things that is true for most payment-related businesses, and a healthy fraction of people in this room are entrepreneurs or working for entrepreneurs, and so the bad news is huge percentage of financial services startups die for a variety of reasons, and we're not going to get into that. This is a 10th anniversary of our homecoming here, or our launch here, and therefore our homecoming, so must stick to positive news. But the good news is if you survive a while and you get usage, huge percentage of payment businesses exhibit network effects, where if you have enough consumers, merchants, platforms, whatever the participants in your network are, once there's enough water flowing through the pipes, it is very hard to deprecate the pipes. And the initial need for clear, simple, easy to understand payment alternative hit critical mass. I don't know if it happened within the first 5 years of our launch or 10 years of our launch, but we've been around for almost 15 now. It certainly happened now. And once you are a network, once every incremental merchant we add as an Affirm acceptee, or every incremental consumer that we add as an Affirm borrower, it benefits everyone. The data that each borrower gives us allows us to be sharper in underwriting, approve more people, get deeper into understanding what the consumer actually wants, what they need to see to feel that they're really getting the transparency they came for. And then on the flip side, it helps merchants get more sales because we're able to approve deeper because we get more consumer data. And the flywheel that gets to a certain scale is very, very hard to stop. At this point, the industry in and of itself is just going to keep going because the value prop exists and the network is big enough that it has network effect.
Let's do it, folks. Welcome back to the broadcast. You're watching Taking Stock, not on the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. We are live at Money 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Joining me now, Scott Melker. He's the host of The Wolf of All Streets. My man, thank you for taking the time. It's great to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
What is your Money 2020 experience like so far for you here today? I know it's really only day two. But
It's a pretty incredible conference. The size is overwhelming, but for me, obviously, as a crypto enthusiast and a Bitcoin guy, it's nice to see increasing representation each year of our industry. I'm doing a keynote with Michael Saylor later, a fireside chat. To see him in the headline slot is really, really encouraging, I think, for our industry at a payment conference. It's not necessarily crypto focused.
Yeah, I just ran into Michael a few moments ago before we were starting the show. You and I were talking when we came back from break about how some of the crypto majors have been trading on the day. Bitcoin, obviously, we had the big storyline a few weeks back, reaching that fresh all-time high of 125, somewhat in retreat down to the 115 level. But what does your kind of seasonality look like here for Q4 for the crypto majors? What are you following?
Generally, Q4 is exceptional for crypto, especially in the fourth year of the cycle. That said, I'm not a deep believer in the cycle anymore. I think that Bitcoin is kind of detached from its previous trading on its own. Now it's obviously a part of TradFi, it's a part of macro markets, and it's going to be affected slightly by what's happening elsewhere. That said, it's not trading like everything else. You know, stocks are kind of ripping off to the races today. Bitcoin up earlier, but sort of flat. Gold down. A lot of people expecting a rotation from gold into Bitcoin, which we've historically seen. When gold tends to top, we tend to see a bottom on Bitcoin. And that usually kind of sparks that run that we're expecting for Bitcoin into Q4. I'm also really eager to see what happens with the rest of the crypto market, as you talked about the majors, because sometimes if Bitcoin gets a nice push and starts to consolidate, we see a really sizable move on the Ethereums and the Solanas and all the way down the risk curve. So I think a lot of people eager to see if that happens this time.
Yeah, and talk about eager. I mean, the fact that there's the institutional adoption conversation has significantly changed so much in the last few years. I feel like back in 2017, 18, 19, you had a lot of the big banks, they said, we're not really at the place we want to touch this stuff just yet. That conversation has really shifted. What do you see in terms of more mainstream or institutional adoption of a lot of these things that maybe once upon a time, a lot of the big players didn't really want to get involved with?
The narrative is entirely flipped. In those years that you talk about, if you were the CFO of a company and you had a fiduciary duty, you'd walk in the meeting, and if you wanted to present Bitcoin, they'd tell you were crazy and tell you to head out the door. Now, if you walk in and you don't have an opinion and you don't have a crypto plan, we're going to tell you to walk out the door. So it's become, as I said, a part of the mainstream narrative. The amount of news that we're getting from institutions, every one of these pieces of news that's just lost in the completely gone in a day now would have moved the market 25% in 2019 or 2020. Citibank to custody crypto assets starting 2026. JP Morgan on Friday announced they're going to take Bitcoin and Ethereum as collateral. You have Ken Griffin of Citadel talking about the debasement trade and buying Bitcoin. Also JP Morgan talking about that. Morgan Stanley just opened the doors. Vanguard, who said never, ever, ever to Bitcoin ETFs, now changing their tune because they're getting so much pressure from their customers. It's a part of the conversation. It's going to continue to be, and that's only growing, and it's happened incredibly fast. I would say we're basically at the 1-year anniversary of true institutional adoption because of the Trump presidency, if we're being honest. You can go back to the BlackRock ETF and the ETF approvals before that, but that's really when the tide changed and everyone said, we're going to get regulatory clarity, we have a favorable environment, we're getting executive orders, we have the Genius Act, and the obviously market structure is probably coming soon.
Every significant crypto player I've spoken with this year has talked about exactly what you just alluded to here, my man, which is the fact that institutional adoption, the regulatory hurdles, especially out of Washington, they're having a fundamentally different conversation today on the crypto majors than they did years ago. What is left to be done? What do you think the next 3 years of this current administration looks like in terms of rules of the road, more clearly defining what is a security, what is a commodity, what is left to be done, you think, for the space?
I think it's dangerous to look at it as 3 more years because it could just be 1 more year depending on what happens with midterms. Right now, the Republicans obviously have a mandate to do whatever they want. They have both houses. They have the presidency. That may not be the case, obviously, come midterm elections. So I think there's a lot of pressure to get these things done now. Government shutdown is greatly affecting them, but market structure really is the key. I think with the Genius Act for stablecoins already done, if we get the Clarity Act market structure, which is what is a security, what is a commodity, what behaviors can crypto exchanges behave in? Can they be custodians and brokers and retail exchanges? Once we have all of that, I think we're literally 90% there for what the industry would ask for. on a extremely accelerated timeline. So I think that market structure is really what matters right now.
Yeah, this SEC seems to be handling things in a way different era than the way Gary Gensler and his team did under the previous administration. I know that smile. My man, thank you for being here. Come back anytime. It's great to have you here.
Appreciate it. Thank you very
Scott
much.
Melker, host of The Wolf of All Streets. Folks, don't go anywhere. We've got much more Taking Stock live from Money 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada coming up after this quick break. Welcome back, one and all, to the broadcast. You're watching Taking Stock live from Money 2020 in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Who better than the great Michael Saylor to join us? You and I just ran into each other before we started the broadcast. I thought to myself, man, would I love to get the great Michael Saylor on the show. Lo and behold, you're willing to do it. Thank you for chatting with us here in Vegas.
Happy to speak.
So let's talk first and foremost, what brings you and the team from MicroStrat here to Money 2020 this year?
Well, I'll be speaking on the main stage later today, and I'm excited to be here because I'm going to speak about digital credit and building digital credit instruments on top of digital capital.
In what ways have you seen the broader Bitcoin treasury conversation really evolve? Obviously, I think you're the sort of person Wall Street points to and say, that's a man who saw where the puck was going, and now we're looking at much more widespread adoption with so many other players pointing to you as their inspiration. What did you see, Michael, before others saw it?
Well, I think last year when the SEC approved the Bitcoin ETFs, they legitimized the asset class. And the spot ETFs are the most successful ETFs in the history of Wall Street. Then earlier this year, the White House endorsed Bitcoin as digital gold, and that was March of this year, and that legitimized it as the apex digital commodity in the world and digital capital asset. The Financial Accounting Standards Board, FASB, endorsed fair value accounting this year, and so 2025 is the first year where digital assets are accounted for on a fair value basis. That was the third big milestone. The fourth big milestone is banking acceptance. The Secretary of the Treasury this year has pointed out that we want to be the crypto capital of the world, and Scott Bessent has been very supportive of Bitcoin and the digital assets economy in general. And that led to directions from the FDIC, the OCC, and Treasury that it's okay for banks to custody Bitcoin and to bank digital assets. We're seeing that happen right now. We're seeing a wave of institutional adoption in large banks like JP Morgan and BNY Mellon and Wells Fargo and Bank of America and Citi are all announcing pro-Bitcoin, pro-crypto policies. That was a pipe dream just 12 months ago. Right now, the exciting thing that just happened just today is that the S&P just gave its first credit rating to a Bitcoin treasury company just a few hours ago. Our company got a credit rating from the S&P. That's exciting because this year we launched 4 digital credit instruments, all backed by Bitcoin. And with that credit rating, that's going to unlock huge pools of capital that can now buy these credit instruments, and that will flow into the crypto economy.
You mentioned Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. We talked about him a little bit earlier on the broadcast, sort of paving the way a little bit for a meeting between Xi Jinping and President Trump. How fundamentally different is this regulatory regime out of Capitol Hill in Washington? The fact you got members of both parties, as well as a Republican in the White House, who are willing to talk about these things in a much more legitimized way than even the old SEC and the old administrations. How notable is that difference from where you're situated, Michael?
Well, I think enormous amount of energy went into shutting down innovation in the previous administration. So there were 100 ideas, and the view was always the cup is half empty, and this is the way that idea might go wrong. And this administration has embraced a very pro-innovation framework and philosophy. And so instead of dissipating huge amounts of energy with enforcement actions and suing the industry, they've actually taken the position of how is it good for America, how is it good for the world if we embrace digital capital, if we embrace digital currency, if we embrace digital finance, if we embrace digital securities, if we embrace digital intelligence and the digital transformation of the world. And I think what you see is everybody from the White House through all the cabinet and through all the financial regulators are more interested in how to make America the crypto capital of the world, the AI capital of the world, the digital capital of the world. And that's been very, very motivational. I think it's driving a huge amount of innovation throughout the industry. And, you know, I think the proof is in the pudding. You can see the industry's grown from $2 trillion to $4 trillion in 12 months. We've created trillions of dollars of wealth, and I think we've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of innovations launched.
Great, Michael Saylor, Michael Strategy. I told you earlier that Eric Trump and I were talking last week. He speaks so highly of you for sort of setting the pace for the broader Treasury space. Thanks a lot for joining us. It is great to have you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for today's edition of Taking Stock Live from Money 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada. We will be back tomorrow with a fresh slate of earnings and a whole new show here from Vegas. You do not want to miss 9 a.m. NYSE and FinTech TV Live here from Vegas, carrying it down to the open. That's going to do it. We will see you tomorrow. Woo.